I'm Ansh Dubey with Feature First, and I'm here with.
I'm Kelsey. I'm the writer director and one of the producers for To Kill a Wolf.
And I'm Liam, the DP and producer of To Kill a Wolf.
Thank you both for this opportunity. I loved your movie. It was really great stuff.
Thank you. That means a lot. I mean, that's why you make movies, is to find other people who connect with the same material you did.
Well, we can just jump right into it. So, Kelsey, this being your feature debut, what is something that was different from the way you make short films that you wish you anticipated?
Yeah, it's so Adam and I have worked together a lot as director, cinematographer on a bunch of shorts, and we've also done some features together, not with me in the directing role. And for most of the stuff that we do, we storyboard everything, or even more often, we reshoot everything and we'll shoot it all in a little iPhone or something, and then we'll hunt it together. And we learn a lot from doing that. For this one, we approached it with a different tactic. We wanted to make sure that the actors were the ones dictating the blocking and that it felt natural. But that meant that we couldn't totally plan our shots ahead of time because we didn't have any rehearsals, and a lot of locations were constantly evolving because of the weather. And so with this one, we made a conscious effort to say, okay, we're going to block it with the actors, and then we'll figure out what the shots are. So we developed a visual language with principles that we wanted to employ, but it was very different than everything else we have done, which is very controlled.
But it does seem like you guys had some experience that you weren't totally lost.
Yeah, and like I can't emphasize enough, we've done a lot of work together. I have worked in an AD role and also as a camera assistant, and Adam and I have done like 10 features together. So we've seen firsthand like what works, what doesn't work. And a lot of the times when we would try to plan things out without the actors, and you're like, okay, here's all the shots, here's all we're covering it. Then the actors come in and are like, no, I had ideas too. And it's better. It's better if you let them do what's going to be best for the performance. So that was something that we've learned over the years and that we implemented on this one. Next time, it would be awesome to have rehearsal so that we could plan it even better and everyone could be on the same page.
Adam, you guys have collaborated for a long time, as Kelsey said. How did you work with Kelsey to emphasize each other's roles, and what kind of input did you have?
Yeah, so Kelsey and I, been a creative partnership for like over a decade now, and Kelsey also comes from a cinematography background as well. So I think our shorthand with speaking about visuals is we're very much on the same page in in a lot of those aspects. And I think the biggest part of the collaboration between any cinematographer and a director is about understanding sort of what the intention of each scene is. And I think our involvement through the visuals just was all to reinforce sort of the story points and figure out what would be the best way of representing what's going on with the characters at any given time.
There's always the question of what came first, chicken or the egg, and I'm always curious with films like these. Did the Little Red Riding Hood imagining aspect come from the story first, or was the film built around that, and then, or was you saw the story and then the you figured out the parallels as you were making the film?
Yeah, we started with the fairy tale. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and we do a lot of driving from LA up to Washington. And when you drive through those areas, there is like an aspect of magic to it. And we're people who want to make bigger worlds, and world building is very important to us. But when you're making your first feature, like no one's going to green light this big fantasy film. So we were like, how do we make something that's in line with what we want to make? So fairy tale came first, and then grooming inherently was something we started to explore early on when you think about what are the things that would lead a young girl from the path, or what are the dangers that young women face today. So those are the two sparks that have stayed true from the beginning. Almost everything else has changed from the first draft of this script 7 years ago. Like it's unrecognizable.
And also, not to speak for Kelsey, I think a lot of Kelsey's work and a lot of other scripts she's written kind of reflect this interest in reflecting like the gray areas of society and moral. It's not things aren't as black and white. People aren't good or evil strictly. So I think in examining the fairy tale of Red Riding Hood, which is very black and white, I think the script did a really good job of exploring those weird nuanced areas where someone might be in the wrong, but the other person still might hold some type of shame or guilt about the experience and such. And I think that was kind of the central pillar in which the script it stayed true from the beginning to the end, but it sort of evolved around that central idea.
Yeah.
So There was this one specific shot that I noticed in the movie, and I can't remember where exactly it is, but it's like an aerial shot of trees in the fog. And
Yeah.
that
Mm.
reminded me so much of Twin Peaks, and obviously
Ah,
the story of the familial trauma and grooming. That also reminded me a lot of that. Was that intentional? Was that an inspiration that you guys had?
It's funny. No, I wouldn't have like cited that specifically, but it totally is. And I think we're discovering more and more like the parallels to other materials shot in the Pacific Northwest. And I don't know if that's just something inherent to that area, but it's a great reference. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I
And we
love.
drive by that area of Twin Peaks where it's set all the time.
that shot actually, it feels like an aerial given the perspective of things, but it happened. It was on the side of the highway that was sort of on the edge of a cliff that looked out onto like another mountain ridge. So it had that kind of interesting perspective where you also had the fog rolling through. But yeah, cool. Glad that
Yeah.
stuff.
And so that was an unintentional reference. Did you guys have any like specific influences or stuff that you guys watched to get to feel inspired and to make the movie?
Yeah, and I think this has evolved a lot. But one of our original references was Winter's Bone, and I think in hindsight now we've come quite a ways away from that. I think it's a much more gritty, more grounded in reality than what we have. Um, but another Blue Ruin is a film also. Like I don't know that like tonally, but just their model for getting the film made was something that was very inspirational to us. We're like, okay, how do we rely on the things that we're good at and turn it into our first feature so that we can start our career?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any better like visual
Well, I think
references or
aesthetically, I think we saw the show on
oh
HBO. The I Know This Much Is True, Derek St. France, and it's a masterfully done series. Mark Ruffalo plays two brothers and stuff. But the cinematography of that piece was just something about the really muted fadedness of it. Really struck a chord with us and kind of gave us this idea of going for this faded photograph look throughout the film. And I think that series was a really big inspiration to try and find the tones and the palette for our story. Obviously, we do our own take, but I think that was a really good starting point for sort of the texture, at least, of the film.
and
Yeah,
something
it's a
beautiful.
really
I'm sorry.
unique look. So yeah, I mean, you guys really did that really well. I'm sorry, did I cut you off? I'm
No,
so
no,
sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. I was like, no, I want to hear what you're saying. But something beautiful that came out of this was we showed this to some friends who are cinematographers and directors, and they mentioned the photographer Todd Hito, and we're like, we don't know who that is, and they pulled up some photographs. And we're like, oh my God, that's
This is it.
exactly
Yeah,
what we
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
did. But it's pretty cool to see how if you just you dig into like what you want to do visually with all these amalgamation of references and come up with something you think is unique, and you're like, oh no, we just didn't know we didn't have the language for the reference.
So, what was the shooting process? You mentioned that you guys did that one shot with the highway. Was there budget constraints and you guys had to get creative? What was the process like?
The name of this entire film is creative because it was a very small crew. There were about 9 of us running around in the woods. And Adam and I went out earlier and we did a lot of like the driving shots. So like a lot of the shots you see the car driving through the woods, it's me driving and it's just Adam in the woods with the camera. But there was a lot of like doing kind of second unit stuff with just a couple people on the side of the road. And I think it makes the film feel much bigger than it is to have all those like single one-off shots. And then the other issue we had was weather. When we showed up to scout, it was beautiful, it was sunny, it was spring, and then it snowed. We got snowed out of some of our locations. We didn't have snow tires on half of our cars. So every day the schedule was changing. So there was a lot of like, all right, so we got to rethink this in a different location, or we got to just do part of the scene here and then part of the scene there. So every day was an exercise in getting creative. And Adam can speak about that in terms of the lighting. Like I've never seen so few tools used to make something look beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, we were small, we were nimble, so we were able to be very flexible with the schedule and be able to be in the right place at the right time, just so you can capture the light, just as it has that sort of magical twinkle, sort of exactly where you needed it. And we didn't have a lot to work with, so we just worked with the parameters we had. And the weather, while it was difficult to work in, really ended up working in our favor because I think it helps sort of this recurring visual motif where we're able to recompose the same frames and the same architecture, but one time it's covered in snow, one time the sun's shining through. So it gave us a lot of sort of production value and sort of story symbolism, but it was just the trade-off was was really difficult.
And I am proud that if you watch it very closely, there's no actually dolly or sliding moves at all. Everything is done with a pan or a zoom, all the camera movement. And that was something that, as people who are really into, visual languages, it was hard to restrain ourselves and say, like, no, just with the equipment and the crew that we have, like, we got to keep it really, really simple. But I don't think the film feels like too still.
Yeah.
It's still, but not.
There's some handheld work in there as well, but there's no sort of traditional camera push-ins, tracking shots, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I definitely noticed. I've done some DP work before, and I'm currently doing for a student short film. So the shots there are really unique. It's got this really unique look. So
cool. Where are you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, you guys were just in Austin, right?
Yeah, we came back last night. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of locations, what what made you guys want to choose the Pacific Northwest and Oregon? Was that what was the thought behind that?
Twofold. One, we had scouted a bunch of other locations, and we actually shot a teaser a number of years ago in upstate New York, just because we were familiar with that area. But ultimately, the woods there just didn't quite feel as imposing enough. And there's a survival element of this film, so we're like, okay, the woods need to feel like they're threatening, but also magical. And naturally, Pacific Northwest seemed like a fitting place to be. I'm from Washington. We had shot in Oregon before, so we scouted the entire West Coast, in addition to scouting the East Coast, and ultimately settled on Portland because the woods are beautiful. And just practically, there's a highway that goes right through, but if you get right off the highway, it feels like you're in the middle of the woods.
And we in one of our scouting expeditions, we drove off the Forest Service roads that are lining the highway on the way up to Mount Hood, and we just drove past this this exploration. We knocked on, I don't know, dozens of cabins to just see if people would be open to letting us film there. We found this one that was just sort of tucked back and had this patina, and it felt like it was like grown into the forest, or the forest had sort of claimed it. And we thought it might have been abandoned, but we left a note, and then through some back and forth between the neighbor and such, we were able to get a hold of the owner, and he was very down for the cause, and it was like he was a great supporter of the film, and it just, that cabin was very special, and it just felt like we could center the film around this sort of place, and it just sort of opened up from there.
I'm gonna jump back to something you said earlier with the Red Riding Hood motif. So what I really enjoyed was watching the film was the wolves. There's so many meanings of the wolf along the film, the literal wolf, the woodsman, and then we see the real predator side in Carrie. Was that idea of looking at different sides of a wolf, literally or figuratively through different forms, always the intention, or was that like natural progression of the story?
Like I said, it has changed a lot, and there was a version in which the woodsman was killing the wolves. But it's always been, as I think Adam said, this exploration of the gray. And what does the wolf mean? Because in our society, like, wolves, depending on who you talk to, wolves are the bad guys. Like, you talk to people who are defending livestock from wolves, wolves are a real problem. But then you have wolves also being reintroduced in so many places because they're a natural part of the ecosystem. So, like, I find that really interesting, and applying that to the fairy tale, we wanted the same exploration of, like, okay, what does it mean to be a bad guy, or the bad wolf? And I love a number of people have come up and said that they felt like Danny was the wolf and she was the one who got set free from the trap. So I love that there are layers that people can interpret however they want.
So if you could do a reimagining of any other fantasy story or classic story, since that's something you're interested in, what would it be?
So it's the Pied Piper. I'm so fascinated by that one, and we've been trying to crack it for a while now. And like, I don't necessarily want to build a career on like only interpreting fairy tales, but there is something just so ominous about that story, and I think looking at it from many angles works well. So that's the one that we're currently trying to crack open.
We have some good ideas.
Yeah, we got some ideas. 7 years from now, there might be very good ideas. But yeah, I think that's the next one.
Previously in your career, you guys worked on an alien short film, which was really cool. I saw that while preparing for this, and it was so sick and minimalist. Would you guys ever want to do a feature in that series, or are there any other franchises you'd like to work in?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're super bummed that the new Alien movie, like, very excited about the new Alien movie, but yeah, I would love to work in that universe. We both loved
Yeah,
it.
it's so fertile with such great motifs and characters, and Alien universe is amazing. It's
Yeah.
cool to see how many different directors, like amazingly talented directors, have had been able to come in and interject their own take on the world and the characters. It's just Alien franchises. It's amazing for a sci-fi franchise.
Any other franchises you guys like and would like to work in?
Yeah, I think that something I've discovered through just talking about this film is I love adaptations. Uh, I love like reinterpreting what was originally intended and subverting people's expectations. So I think getting to work in any kind of existing IP is really cool. Like what a challenge to try to maintain and get the fans who are already invested to continue being excited about it, but also recruit new people to it. So we're big fans of Lord of the Rings and the Rings of Power series that came out. Like it'd be cool to be a part of something like that. We're big into Harry Potter. I don't think we're gonna be a part
I
of the
got a
TV
great, I
series.
got a great like dark take on Harry Potter that I can't share it here, but it's good.
So yeah, I think any kind of like adaptation. I was an avid reader growing up, so seeing all these books I love turns into films and series, it'd be really cool to be a part of those at some point before they make all of them.
So what's next for you guys? What do you have anything in the pipeline? You guys mentioned the Pied Piper thing.
Yeah, we're in a tricky position right now because we've made this film and we are very much driven by our creativity, and it's hard to force yourself to work on something that you aren't super excited about. And having finished this one, it's taken so much to push it across the finish line over 7 years that we're like, okay, the next one might be just as big of an investment. So how do you decide? And so many people right now, it's a tough marketplace, and people are really pushing for like make a genre film, make a genre film. And we love horror movies, we love sci-fi, but I'm not sure that that is what we're driven to do next. So that's the hard thing is figuring out like what do we do to like do we get into the genre game or do we have a script ready to go right now that I'd love to make, but I think it's going to be very, very, very difficult to get people behind it. 'Cause it's another like very dark coming to it's darker than this one, so
Mhm.
it's gonna be it's gonna be a push up the hill to get that one made. So I don't know.
Do you guys want to go all in on features or shorts? Are you guys trying to balance the two?
It's frankly like I'm not really that interested in making shorts anymore. I don't know about Adam, but it's for me like shorts are a different format, and there's something really really cool about it. But I just know that I want to work in the feature world. I think you can tell bigger stories and get more of an give the audience more bang for their buck with a feature and make a bigger world. So while I might make another short at some point, it's a proof of concept or something like features is definitely where it's at. And I'd love to do television as well. Like I think it's amazing the worlds that can be built in television with where we are.
I'd work on anything that has a visual story to tell, and obviously features is where I think my heart is, where ultimately like, what I aspire to. It's what inspired me to make movies, and I think that's where I'd like to continue going. But right now I'm just interested in finding people to work with who want to tell stories, and I can help be a part of that.
And I should also say, I'm a director who doesn't want to write. I think both of us are very much aware that we're good at making things, but we're not committed to telling singularly our stories. So we are looking for other screenwriters to collaborate. And that's what was so cool about Austin is meeting people and be like, send me your script, because we are looking to connect with other material and bring it to life.
As you guys mentioned, you want to work with more people, and as you're progressively getting, more popular and having a bigger reach. Are there any people that you want to work with, actors or directors or screenwriters?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's tough because so many screenwriters also want to be directors. I think the writer director combo is so popular right now. And for me, it baffles me a little bit because everything else in the film industry is so specialized. So I'm like, why not have writers who are great at writing and directors who are great at directing? Um, that said, I understand that people have the stories that they want to tell. But I think actors to me is the most exciting thing. Just meeting people who are really talented at what they do. Because for so long we've like I don't know, we make things and it's like it's us acting in them. But it'd be nice to access a higher level of talent of people who can make magic with their craft. And we're so lucky with this film that we have the actors that we have. Like I cannot say enough good things about them. And in some way, I would love to make another film with them. I've been working on a comedy because they're all really, really funny, and this was such a dark experience.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
I think that's all I have for you guys. Congratulations on the premiere and on getting to make it. I'm really excited for its distribution, and I hope to see it again. Yeah.
I hope so too. That's what we're so down about right now. Is like, how?
It's tough. I mean, we're just kind of, I don't want to say stumbling our way through it, but we're learning through trial and error about,
Yeah.
we've made a lot of movies, but we've only had this experience of figuring out how to get a movie made. And now once it's made, what to do with it on this process. So, this one's going to give us so much ammunition for the next one, but, going through the distribution route, it's like you're starting to see the pitfalls and the things that could have been done beforehand or making the film to sort of set you up for a little bit more success. And then nothing's guaranteed, but
But it's also like we made this movie this way because we couldn't do
exactly,
it the
yeah.
proper way. So I don't know. What
Yeah, I don't
happens
think-
when everyone says no? But like, yeah, we got to get the movie out there somehow. I don't know how we're gonna do it yet.
Yeah, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to any more stuff that you guys do. So
Thanks, Ansh.
Thank you. Thanks so much for watching. You didn't come to the festival, did you?
I was at the festival, but I was just so busy with interviews and other premieres that I couldn't catch it there. But yeah, I got to see it though.
Okay, good. Yeah, there's so much going on at the festival. It was quite daunting.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I have for you guys. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for
Yes.
watching it.
Pleasure chatting, Ansh.